Hello beautiful people, my name is Zenji and today I'm bringing you the Authortube in practice and in theory tag. I figured since I'm in the middle of the nano trenches, this would be the perfect tag to do to sort of give me a little break and get me back onto the booktube scene. I was tagged to do this ages ago by my dear friend Emma from the channel Emma Rosen Books, and the original tag is from the channel Strict Cover Lit, and I'll have both of those channels linked in the description box below. But for now, I think it's best if we just get started because I have a lot of words to catch up on today. Question number one, how do you start writing a poem? And the answer to this is super simple for me. I don't. I don't think in verse. I think that poetry is fantastic if you can do it. It's just not how my brain functions as a medium for storytelling. Long form and prose is the way to go for me. Question number two is how do you normally start a short story? And honestly, for this one, I normally start my short stories with a lie. Again, short form fiction is not my cup of tea. It's not the way I think. Stories come in novel form for me. But on the few occasions that I've had to write a short story for class, I found a method that truly worked for me. When my classmates or friends would ask me, oh, what are you writing about? I would immediately be able to come up with a convincing lie for what I thought would be like a really cool story idea. And then lo and behold, I'd end up writing the thing that I lied about already having written or already having started. I don't know, maybe it's like some weird shame trigger that snaps an idea into my head. It's like, okay, you need this thing and you don't want to be embarrassed by not having a thing, so come up with something, let's go. And for whatever reason, it works for me. I know it's a little weird, probably a little unorthodox, but that's how my short stories sort of form in my mind. Again, now that I'm no longer in any classes where this is a thing that I have to do, I don't think I'll be doing it ever again. So I can keep a clear conscience as far as that goes from here on out. And question number three, the most relevant one for me, is how do you start writing a novel? For this, I don't have a very complex or interesting or smart answer. I start with the seed of an idea, which is usually a question that I ask myself, like what would happen if XYZ were real? Or how would X influence Y? I'm obviously not going to come up with one right now. I'm not looking to write a short story. Speaking of short stories though, sometimes the idea for a novel actually comes from the original seed of an idea that I turned into a short story for like a class or something, and I think, okay, the story I want to tell about this idea is much bigger than the 10 or 12 pages that I'm allotted to write for it in this, and I'll just expand upon it. After I've got a pretty solid grip of what my idea is, I go into my zero drafting phase, aka my outlining, because I'm a really intense outliner to the point where I know what's going to happen in the story from A to Z, and my outlining process is where I figure that out. This is really where like the story discovery happens. It's where I figure out like the plot beats, what they're going to be. I figure out who my characters are during this time so that when I get to my drafting phase, my draft one phase, I can sit down and I already have a perfect roadmap of every little thing I'm going to hit. And after that, I can edit it. But that's already more than overshooting the question. So how do I start? With an idea and then with an outline. Question number four, do you have a writing strategy? Yes, I absolutely do. And I sort of gave a description of kind of what it looks like in the previous question. Basically, develop an idea and then outline it until you know it inside out and backwards and you're absolutely sick of it but still kind of in love with it. And then sit down and draft it. For the drafting bit, I guess if it matters, I write chronologically, just because that's how my brain works. I don't know if a scene is actually going to look like it does until I've written the scenes that come before it, because I need to know what emotional dominoes are put in place. I need to know how far we are from the specific plot beat that I'd planned for XYZ place. I need to know the past in order to know the future. It's how it works. It's how people are going to read it. So it's how I want to write it. So I get as close to an approximation of how another person will interpret my story once I've got it onto paper. Question number five is, do you write on paper or on the computer? And now I do my outlining and my first drafting 100% on the computer. I just find it easier to search for things in the document and get things out on the page in a fast way. But for my editing, I like to do that a little bit analog. When I do my first read through, I mark down inconsistencies, and doing it slowly kind of forces me to take the reading a little slower as well and really dig into, okay, what's wrong here? Why doesn't XYZ bit of the plot work? Is this character really necessary, or can they be merged with another character? Can they be written out of the story completely? and doing it on paper in like a journal with a pen or a pencil helps me figure that out a little better, I think. But after I figure out my like editing game plan, I go straight back to another document on my computer. Question number 6 is you are allowed to claim one work of fiction as your own. Which is it? And I have to say none. I don't want to steal. I fully believe that everyone's interpretation of an idea will be completely unique, and I wouldn't want to claim anyone else's interpretation as my own because that's, one, unfair to them, and two, disingenuous to my vision of my art, which I want to have merit and stand on its own without needing somebody else to be a crutch to prop myself up. Also, my favorite stories are a giant inspiration to me, and they inspire me to improve on my craft and make my art better, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. Question number 7 is, do you set goals? And if so, how? And I definitely do set goals. I set long-term goals by setting myself deadlines, like I will have X draft done by X day, or I will have edits in at this point in time. As far as shorter term goals, I have word count goals for every day. As I mentioned, we are in the middle of Nano, so I've been using that. But normally I try to get like 1,500 words a day. That is a thing that sort of works for me and it keeps my writing muscles flexed throughout the year. And the last 3 questions are like hypothetical scenarios, and I just thought they were super fun. So question number 8 is, boom, you win the Nobel Prize in Literature. What did you get it for? Now, I primarily write genre fiction, specifically sci-fi and fantasy, and while it hurts my heart every single day that genre fiction is not taken as seriously as like literary fiction, I do think that if I were to win the Nobel Prize in Literature, times wouldn't change that quickly. And if somehow I was awarded this honor, it would be contemporary story specifically about immigration and diaspora intergenerationally through a lens of queerness and how queerness in an increasingly globalized world actually kind of messes with your ability to accept a variety of cultural identities. I'm not sure if I worded that well. All my words are going to Nano right now, but I hope that you guys can tell that is a topic very near and dear to my heart. And I would like to write a story about that one day, just my chops aren't quite there yet, I don't think. But one day, I think I will write that story. And if I do, if I somehow were to get the Nobel Prize in Literature, I think it would be for that. Question number 9 is, boom, you are a Nobel winning millionaire. Where do you live? And what kind of car do you drive? Which I just thought that was a really funny question because making money as a writer is increasingly a difficult thing. So I think I would live as humbly as possible. If I could, I think I'd return to Croatia just because I like how people live there. I like having my family and friends really close by, and I super love that the food tastes like actual food. No shade to America. And driving, as far as driving, if I lived in a relatively small place, I would just rely entirely on public transportation because 1, it's more ecologically sound, and 2, I don't like to drive. So yeah, I'd be saving those millions for retirement and for if I have children, for their college funds, and the rest would go to my family and then also to like charity because no one needs that kind of money. No one needs that money. And finally, question number 10, boom, you're in writer heaven, possibly because of the boom. Who are the 5 writers that are in your writing group? So I'm assuming, if I understood this question correctly, I'm assuming these authors have to be dead. So that narrows it down a little bit. The first person who comes to mind is Oscar Wilde, #ODubs, #wild and free, and I would mostly like him to be there. Battle of egos with and just party with, and I think no writer heaven would ever be complete without my man Oscar Wilde. On a far more serious note, my number 2 pick would be Toni Morrison. It would be less of a writer group and more of me just picking her brain and asking how do you write characters with such gravitas and importance. Y'all, The Bluest Eye, her debut haunts me. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about that book, and I don't think about just the societal implications of that story and all the characters she created. Jesus, wowza. So definitely Toni Morrison. Number 3 is where things get tricky because she's not dead yet, And I don't think she will be soon, and I don't want her to be dead soon because she's an amazing writer and she deserves to have her brain in the world for another gazillion years. However, I really, really, really would like to talk to Isabel Allende about magical realism. If I can't have her, I guess I'll take Gabriel Garcia Marquez, but I'd prefer Isabel Allende. Also, I'm just fascinated by anyone that can do short stories, and she is perfection at them. But like we said, not dead, and hopefully won't be for a very long time, so I'm not sure if she counts. Number 4 is gonna be my girl, Jane Austen. Listen, you know she was a snark queen, and I love anyone that could write romance the way she did, but also leave it like socially relevant and like low-key feminist, or pretty high-key feminist, but like sneaky and subtle enough that like people sort of still let it go under the radar. You have to like look for it, and I love her so much. Love her so dearly. So good. Chef's kiss. And then Mary Shelley, not for writer reasons. I just want to ask her how anyone can be so goth as fuck as to lose their virginity on their mother's grave. That is just beyond my level of comprehension. Also, she was hella young when she wrote Frankenstein, and I just want to pick her brain as to how she had that sort of imagination and commitment to her craft while she was that young, because that takes fucking dedication. Writing a book is hard, y'all, and she just did that. Damn. And I don't think he'd be a part of any writers group, just because I sort of envision him as like a one-man wolf pack kind of deal. Also, jury's still out about whether he's just one person or a gazillion different writers writing a bunch of different plays anyway, but an honorable mention definitely goes to my friend and yours, Willie Shakes, the bard himself, William Shakespeare, because the jokes, really. I feel like some writers groups tend to be like all about the angst and just like the depth of the craft. And I'm just like, who better than to bring in timely and well-written poop jokes, fart jokes, your mom jokes, just sex jokes. He is the love of my life. And I would love to have him be part of my writer squad, but I don't think he'd be part of any squad. So, I don't know. But in writer heaven, he is my ride or die. Yeah. I love myself. Yeah, on that note, I'm gonna show myself out and get myself back to my laptop so I can get my words for the day down, because there's no writer heaven without writing, and I really, really, really love the stories I'm working on for Nano this year. So I have to go. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please leave it a thumbs up. And if you like me, maybe consider subscribing to my channel. I post bookish content / writing content every weekend, and I would love for you guys to join my little corner of the internet. Comment down below if you are participating in NaNoWriMo this year so we can commiserate together. And if you're doing NaNoWriMo, well, maybe just stop watching this video and go write. And also don't bother to comment. I know that every second of writing time is precious, so just go do that. My feelings won't be hurt. Godspeed. Have some alcohol if you're legal, and take a nap if you're not. Jesus, it's hard. Good luck. But that truly is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.